It was a bright Saturday afternoon in downtown Seattle, the kind of day when the city shimmered under a pale gold light and laughter spilled from every cafe terrace. But inside a small apartment above a bookstore, Ethan Cole was running late. His 6-year-old daughter, Mia, sat cross-legged on the couch, watching him wrestle with a stubborn tie that refused to cooperate. His reflection in the mirror showed a man who looked put together on the surface, blue shirt, clean shave. But behind his calm exterior was the fatigue of someone who had carried too much for too long. He was a single father, a full-time mechanic, and a man who hadn't gone on a date in almost 6 years. The only reason he was doing this was because of his best friend, Jordan, who had begged him to go on this blind date favor for his wife's co-worker. "She's nice, I swear," Jordan had said. "You could use a night out, man." Ethan had laughed it off, but somehow here he was half anxious, half reluctant, and wondering how he'd let himself get talked into this. "Do I look okay, Peanut?" he asked, turning toward Mia. She gave him a serious once-over, tapping her chin. "You look handsome, Daddy. Like someone who's going to make her smile." Her words made him chuckle softly, his heart melting the way it always did when she said things far too grown up for her age. "Just dinner, that's all," he murmured, kissing her forehead before leaving. As he drove through the busy streets, he promised himself he wouldn't stay long. An hour, maybe two. Be polite, share a few stories, then head home. He wasn't looking for love. Not anymore. Life had already taught him that some people walk away, no matter how much you give them to stay. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the magic of unexpected love, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Because stories like this one remind us sometimes the heart heals when we least expect it. The restaurant was upscale, softly lit, with amber lights and jazz humming in the background. Ethan walked in, suddenly aware of his rolled sleeves and worn-out shoes. He wasn't used to places like this. He scanned the tables until a hostess pointed toward a woman sitting near the window, and in that moment his world seemed to pause. She was nothing like he'd imagined. Sophia Linwood looked effortlessly elegant, dark hair swept up in a bun, a soft cream blouse, and eyes that held both warmth and authority. There was a quiet grace about her, the kind that drew people in without her even trying. When she looked up and met his eyes, her lips curved into a small, surprised smile. "You must be Ethan," she said as he approached. Her voice was calm, yet there was something magnetic in it. He nodded, sitting down awkwardly. "Yeah, sorry if I'm a bit late. Traffic was, well, you know how the city gets." She smiled faintly. "No problem at all. I'm usually the one running late. Today's a miracle." For the first few minutes, their conversation stumbled, polite but distant. Ethan wasn't used to talking about himself. Sophia, however, had a way of asking questions that made people open up. He found himself telling her about his workshop, about fixing cars for single mothers who could afford repairs, about how he worked extra hours to make sure Mia never went without. She listened not with the distracted politeness of someone passing time, but with genuine curiosity, as if his words mattered. When he asked about her work, she hesitated for a second, then said, "I'm in corporate management. I run a few companies under Linwood Industries." He didn't realize until the subtle glances from nearby staff, until someone greeted her with a quiet "Miss Linwood," that she wasn't just an employee. She was the CEO. That realization hit him like a silent wave. The woman sitting across from him wasn't just successful. She was someone from an entirely different world. A world of glass, offices, power meetings, and luxury. A world he didn't belong to. Still, she didn't treat him like he was lesser. She asked about Mia, about fatherhood, about how he managed to stay hopeful despite everything. And when he told her about the night, his ex-wife had left how he'd stood in the rain, holding a crying toddler, wondering how to start over, Sophia didn't pity him. She simply said, softly, "You didn't break." That's strength most people never find. The way she said it made something stir inside him, a feeling he hadn't allowed himself in years. As the evening unfolded, laughter replaced hesitation. They talked about favorite books, dreams they'd once had, and the silly things kids say. She shared stories of her younger brother, who she helped raise after their parents' death, and Ethan saw the human behind the polished CEO, the woman who had known loss, responsibility, and lonely success. When dessert came, neither wanted the night to end. She walked him to his car, the city lights glowing around them. "You surprised me, Ethan," she said with a soft laugh. I wasn't expecting someone so. She paused, searching for the word. Real. He smiled faintly. Guess I'm not what you're used to. No, she said. You're better. He drove home with that sentence replaying in his head. Over the next few weeks, they met again. Once for coffee, then for a walk in the park. Then at a local festival where Mia insisted on coming along, watching Sophia kneel beside his daughter, helping her win a toy at a ring toss game. Ethan felt something shift inside him. The walls he'd built around his heart, thick, high, and unbreakable, began to crumble. But love stories rarely come without storms. One afternoon, as he worked under a car hood, a black sedan pulled up at the shop. Out stepped a man in an expensive suit, Sophia's business partner, Mark Danton. His expression carried the cold arrogance of someone who believed money defined worth. He looked around the shop, his voice sharp. So, you're the mechanic who's been distracting our CEO? Ethan stood up, wiping his hands. I don't know what you mean. Mark smirked. You really think a man like you fits into her world? She's under pressure already. The board doesn't need a scandal involving this. His gaze swept around the greasy workshop like it was filth. Stay in your lane, Mr. Cole. You'll save everyone the embarrassment. Those words cut deeper than he expected. He spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, wondering if Mark was right. Could a man like him, a single dad, barely making ends meet, really belong with someone like her? When Sophia visited later that week, bringing cupcakes for Mia, he avoided her eyes. She noticed immediately. What's wrong? She asked gently. Maybe this, whatever it is, isn't a good idea, he muttered. You've got a whole world to manage. I've got a kid who needs me. We're just different. Her expression softened, but there was pain in her eyes. Ethan, I didn't fall for a version of you that fits my world. I fell for the man who built his own. He looked away. You don't understand. People like me don't end up with people like you. Then maybe people like us should change what like us means, she said quietly. But fear is a powerful thing. And sometimes love isn't lost because it's not real, but because one person is too scared to believe it could last. Days turned into weeks. He focused on work, on Mia, on everything but her. Yet every time his phone buzzed and her name appeared, he couldn't bring himself to answer. Until one afternoon, he heard a knock at the garage door. Sophia stood there, rain-soaked and trembling. You said you fix broken things, she said softly. Then fix this. Something in her voice shattered what was left of his hesitation. He stepped forward, pulling her into his arms. For the first time in years, he didn't care about the what-ifs, the differences, or the world outside that small garage. All that mattered was that she was there, and she wasn't leaving. Months later, as sunlight streamed through the same restaurant window where they, first met, Sophia reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. You know what the board said when they found out I was dating a mechanic? She asked with a teasing smile. He chuckled. Let me guess, scandalous? She grinned. They said it's about time I fell for someone real. Mia giggled beside them, dipping fries into her milkshake. Does that mean you're my new mommy now? She asked innocently, making both adults laugh through tears. Ethan looked at Sophia, his heart swelling with gratitude for the second chance he didn't ask for, but somehow deserved. Maybe someday, Peanut, he whispered. Someday soon. And for the first time since his life had fallen apart, Ethan realized he wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. Because love, true love, doesn't look at status, wealth, or background. It finds you in the most ordinary moments, sits across a restaurant table, and reminds you that sometimes what's meant for you will never walk past you. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life. Special request. Comment second chances are real if you believe love always finds a way, no matter how broken the past was.